Welcome to the Iron John podcast. In this episode, we interview Timothy Frantzich, Nicholas Pawlowski, and Doug von Koss on their experiences leading perfection-free singing circles at men's conferences. The singing at conferences involves men singing together and creating beauty without expectation, without judgment, and with an emphasis on expression over perfection. Such singing is based on the raw beauty of participation rather than on the need to sing with technical perfection. To learn more about the Minnesota Men's Conference and our events, go to www.minnesotamensconference.com. Here's the interview.
We are going to have our 40th Minnesota Men's Conference this fall. We have the writer Robert Bringhurst coming. At least that's confirmed. Some of the old hands, and we're still looking at a few other guys. So I'm looking forward to 40 years. Or memories of 40 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
So I thought we'd just start off with this question, Doug. How did we come to have a morning sing at the Minnesota Men's Conferences?
Well, once upon a time, Robert Bly and I had a great nose-to-nose discussion in Mendocino. He had tried the year before to, he had been influenced by Sufi singing, and he came up with this Black Dog Take Me Home, or Dada Ringana, and it was fraught with failure. So I spent the year seeking out ways that men could sing together. And the nose-to-nose came the first morning when he said, well, Doug, I heard you want to sing. And I said, yes, let's have it the hour before breakfast. So we said, well, I got the schedule, and we can't interfere with it. And he finally gave me permission, as long as I didn't extend the length of the conference. So the opening night, I gave a little announcement that anybody who was interested, come to this worn out tent nearby, and we were going to sing the hour before breakfast. And I expected maybe 10, 12 guys to show up. Well, the little tent cabin was full. I had awakened the camp with bells, and I had picked flowers and ferns and so forth. So I just splattered them all over the tent cabin so that it was beautiful. And the guys kept coming. And pretty soon it was cheek by jowl. And we sang, what was it? Namo Amida Butsu. And I taught it much too fast. So I stopped it immediately and slowed it way down. And the guys climbed aboard. And pretty soon they were singing as one unit. They were breathing together, pronouncing it together. And we became, in an hour, kind of bliss junkies. And that was the beginning of a perfection-free zone of singing. And when you tell men this is a perfection-free zone, you give them permission to find the voices that the teachers, when they were growing up, said, don't sing, don't sing, just move your lips. So I'll end this very rapidly. A week went by. It was a closing circle, and Robert asked me to get the whole circle singing. And afterwards he said, "I'm going to take you with me, Doug." And that's
so
what
good.
happened.
That's a great story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when you, because you were gone for a few years to finish working in San Francisco, and then you came back to Minnesota and you brought it back to Minnesota. And I was just blown away myself how we were singing. And what I really loved is you pulled music and songs and chants from so many different traditions. Now, I was raised Roman Catholic, and when you did a Roman Catholic song, I mean, that just took me right back so
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
It was one of the deepest moments of the 40 years I've ever been at the men's conference, because it tapped everything inside of me all the way back to when I was a little boy. And that, so
Yeah.
for me personally, it opened up ways for me to continue to feel good.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, over time, we had a terrific taste of chants and songs from every culture in the world, darn near.
Yep.
Yes. You got a taste of the Sufis, a taste of Buddhism, a taste of, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And some of those African songs were so lively, and we started getting all those different levels of harmony. I mean, it felt like the sun was shining from inside of me.
Well, at Camp Miller, when we would go downstairs in the morning time, in that vast space, it was like singing in the world's biggest bathroom. Don't you think of the biggest locker room?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm remembering a guy named Paul Bendix.
Oh,
you remember Paul?
Yes.
How
Yes.
he made it down those steps every morning.
Right.
Because he was wheelchair bound since he was at Berkeley. Yeah. So, but the gifts. And then we had the bottom feeders, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we found a hole in the schedule, not everybody would run down to the basement, but during a break, and I'm remembering the Northwest Passage, yes?
Oh,
Northwest
for
Passage.
just one time, I would take the Northwest Passage
To find
Yes.
the hand of Franklin
pointing
pointing
toward the Beaufort Sea. That's so good.
Yeah, we were. I think it was Jack Gunderson was actually challenged, I think, by Martine to wake the camp with song,
Yeah.
singing, and that's how that's.
Yeah.
So he recruited a bunch of us, and you came along, Doug, and we would go into these cabins at like, I don't know, 7 a.m. It was dark, and Jack would sing something usually beautiful, and then end it with some kind of foul joke, and then leave.
Yes, it did.
And that was the wake up call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Shenandoah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
also sang yeah. Lots of joys and pleasures.
Yeah.
And of course, with Bob Roberts coming along and singing all those times, and then he had us come down to New Orleans a few times. Now, we were down there in 1999 at a conference by Lake Pontchartrain. And
Oh, you're right.
remember? And it was
Yes.
right at during Mardi Gras.
And somebody went out in the big field at midnight, laid down in the grass and began to sing. And everybody went out to join him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Singing to the moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was,
Wow.
I mean, there was so much that came out of the voices of men.
Yeah.
And you guys facilitated that. And you started something so memorable, Doug, and so meaningful to so many men.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then
I'm
we've
glad
got
to hear that.
we got Tim and
But, you know,
Nicholas picking up.
one of the joys was to have coffee with Tim in the morning, and we would plot out perhaps what songs, you know, say it was a Wednesday morning, and we have a big hunch that we're going to go into grief sometime during the day, because that's generally what happens.
Yeah.
And we tried to get a couple grief chants in our bag ready for whatever would occur. And yes, but it was a planning. And then finally, it was who would show up in the circle, and you would take the pulse of the men, and what's the condition after, because we hadn't sung, we had hardly breathed heavily in the morning. Well, Nicholas, you're staring intensely. What's going on with you?
Well, I find that the song gives us a freedom. It gives the voice freedom. And we give each other freedom with the perfection-free zone that you led. And I think that's really, really important. And I at least in my life, it's not that easy to find spaces that are that free.
Yeah.
And great freedom like that is a blessing that we can give to ourselves and we can give to each other. And the song carries that. And that is one of the most beautiful, beautiful things. And with that freedom can come great joy. Yeah. And that sustains us. And we feed each other with that. And we give each other permission. And that's what's so important about being in a group together to sing, which is a vulnerable place. I mean, it's fair to say that singing and dancing and public speaking are three of the most challenging things for men, publicly especially. Mm-hmm. So to be able to sing together in a safe space, in a space that is perfection free, that you've led, is really a very radical thing, and as a term that I've heard in different circles for many years, a radical inclusion, and we need spaces like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well said, Nicholas. I think too, just, I think men tend to keep a lot of things, bottled up emotionally or in memories and things like that, traumas, and there's something to be said for, the process of containment, but there's also something to be said about letting things out of the bottle once in a while. And one of the ways I think that we do that is with singing is it literally opens the throat chakra, right? And the energy actually, comes out of your body, and is turned to beauty in many cases. It is perfection free, so it's not always beautiful, but it's not always perfect. It's always beautiful. Let's put it that way.
There's been And guys, there's been many a morning where the great silence after we've sung something just gorgeous, then we move into the silence and the tears that would flow down men's faces for participating in a way in a beautiful moment that they had no idea was going to occur. Right, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so cool that you bring up that part of the song that is silent at the end. It's as if you're someplace else, or you're when your heart's open, or however that works. But when I often sing with my eyes closed, and I open my eyes, and I feel like I might be in Narnia or something, like I've moved, and then you wake up, or whatever it is, and you feel the presence of that song is still there, like it's leaving, you know.
Yeah.
But there's something very profound and mystical about singing, if we open ourselves to that. I think it was Dave Grohl that said, you know, it's a miracle. Singing is a miracle. And we have to remind ourselves, because we talk about A440 and we talk about intervals like we make science out of everything, right? But and we do that with the stars. But when we stop and think about it in a bigger picture, it's so powerful. And I caught one little bit that you said, Doug, when you were talking about that first week. You said, and so it was beautiful, and that was just a little part of the whole story. And I want to just take that, because the beauty also is that you bring a very special human being, a singular person that can bring physical beauty to a space and atmosphere, and then the people bring their voices to it, and it brings us from all our defense mechanisms are here, and we can hang out there as long as we want. But if we open ourselves and we're singing, we move down into our feeling realm, where we guys don't hang out down there very much. I just remember the first time I was there in 2001 with you, Doug, how beautiful it was in the dark morning of the autumn, down in that biggest bathroom of the world that we sang in, and the candlelight and the beauty that you brought, and the voices. And it just, I was pretty defenseless at that point to take in such a beautiful event, and that I was really moved out of what had been before towards something new that week, largely due to the singing that we did every morning. Yeah.
Well, yes, Tim. I'm remembering a teaching from James Hillman, who said, the first symptom of the loss of soul is the loss of the sense of beauty. And in any way that we can bring beauty into the room, whether it's a flower, a candle, a praising poem, yes, beauty will save us in the end. I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like what Nicholas, when he tied the beauty with freedom, because when you're in the place of beauty, you are in the place of freedom. And of course, there's forces outside of us, but the soul is in a place of freedom. The soul is in a place of beauty. And that's one thing, to share that with a group of men. It's a rare thing in this world that we live in. Sadly, it's a rare thing, but we've been able to do it. And I know that Tim Frantzich and Nicholas, you've been continuing these things. And Doug, you took this, I believe I have recording of you doing this in Italy with group in a church.
Yeah.
And I know you've done it out all over with different folks.
I have been blessed. I have been blessed to be able to bring the gifts of music and singing all over the world. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've blessed each other in that way also.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm forever grateful for that, those experiences.
Mhm.
And I know they're not going to end because we've got guys like Tim Frantzich and Nicholas carrying that tradition on.
Very
And
good.
there are young men out there that are just waiting for something like this.
Hungry.
Yeah.
Hungry. Yes.
Yep.
Feed them, fellas. Feed them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we
Well,
actually our song circle here in Minneapolis actually we call Perfection Free Singing Circle.
Yeah.
I took that right from Doug's philosophy, and we have a robust singing group every Saturday morning. Around 40 people these days that come out and sing, and it's just it's donation if they want to, it's free if they want to, and we just have a rich time together. And I know it gets me through the week. Some weeks like this last one are so hard. I'm a school teacher, fifth grade, and I'm just so glad to have singing on Saturday mornings. And I'm the one that's kind of facilitating, but yet it's still it brings so much sustenance to my being.
yeah.
And Nicholas, you had us singing this winter again in the morning over at Camp St. Croix. Once again, it was fresh, but it held all of the memories that I have of all those other years and those other times.
Yeah.
And there's something about when we get to that place of singing where the ego is out of the way, we're not constrained by time.
Mhm. That's right.
It's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
And I know Andrew wanted to say thank you to you for doing these things.
Mm.
Andrew Wallach was there in the wintertime, and once again, it held him for weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, guys, the group is called Chanticleer, and they home base in San Francisco.
Hmm.
And they're about 14, 18 guys that they've reconstituted themselves over the last 40 years. But they have a song called I Have Had Singing.
Hmm.
And the lyric goes, the singing, oh, the singing. There was always so much singing then. And that was my pleasure too. Oh, we all sang. The boys in the fields, the chapels were full of singing. Now here I lie, I've had pleasures enough. I have had singing. I have had singing. And that was in the lyrics from an English horseman in his 80s, and they put a mic in front of him and said, what was it like growing up? And those are his words. And Chanticleer has set it to music.
Yeah, beautiful. I remember you speaking those words maybe the first time, Doug, in 2001. I've heard that. It's so wonderful to hear you say it again. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember a
We
funny story.
sing.
All right, go ahead, Doug. What do you got there?
No,
I just was recalling these moments of beauty. We were up at Camp de Nord. Maybe all of us were in this situation. Um, and Doug was scheming in his mischievous way, and he said, "We need to have a beauty bomb of some kind. We need to do something." So we knew that the whole group was coming down this trail, and so Doug got us all together, like maybe 12 of us, and we ran up ahead, and we were trying to find a place where we could pop up in harmony, right? So all of a sudden, Doug's, prop, his eye from the San Francisco Opera spotted this old, beautiful stairway that was going up the side of a building to a little apartment. and we all climbed. We were so happy to climb. We were presented in, each at a different stage. It was beautiful. We were all standing there. It was made out of wood, right? And all of a sudden, we all heard this little sound. It went. I thought I thought we were gonna go down for sure. The whole thing, a big story, a big gigantic collapse. But luckily it didn't, and we got our singing done, and we got out of there. But that was fun and memorable, and that type beauty moment out of nothing, you know.
Well, Tim, I think on that pathway, there was an enormous stone.
Yeah.
The stone was almost like the size of a whale.
Yeah.
And we all climbed aboard it. And I don't remember what we sang, but as the guys came by, their jaws were just dropping. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and there was that tiny little bridge just before you got to the lodge.
Yep.
And we went down underneath that bridge.
I remember that. That's right. The Billy
Did
Goats.
anybody remember what we sang?
No, it's a couple people were under the sort of a
I
Billy
don't remember.
Goats
I
thing.
remember being under the bridge. We were joking about being trolls, but
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and there was a time also at Camp Miller when Bob Roberts brought Rosie's ashes, and we did a ritual on the dock scattering her ashes, and I believe that a group of us were able to sing. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember a friend of mine that was just there one year, a wonderful friend, a thoughtful man, and he had just been diagnosed with cancer and was going to Mayo to have surgery the next week. And I came to you, Doug, and said, "What can we do for him?" And we grabbed about 6 people, and we went down in the basement there, and we stood around him, and we sang a Ubi Caritas, and it was so beautiful. And there it was. There was the thing we can do,
Yeah.
is make something beautiful around each other and for each other.
There you go, guys.
That reminds me, Tim, that first year, 2001, it was such a hard conference because of the 9/11, that first day.
It started on the first day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, we were so fortunate to have the beauty of singing and the beauty of community of men.
Yeah.
And it was one of those times when we actually were balancing the distraught feelings that were out all over us
Yeah.
and inside of us, but we had the singing to help keep some balance and
That's
keep
so
some
good.
beauty.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
get trapped in the screens like our family did back at home.
Yeah.
So I know for myself, when I got home, there was almost a relief at home that came with me, carrying the songs, carrying the beauty, carrying the messages, carrying the poetry back
Yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm.
And it had an effect, I know, that would not have happened had we not gathered to sing and do poetry as we did.
Yeah. That's so well said. I couldn't, every day Robert Bly would come in, and the people that he was with and they'd walk in and they'd give us the update on what was going on out there. So we weren't cut off from it, but we weren't trapped over and over and over seeing that image that we had all seen enough already. And we were also with all ages of men, and many that had been in conflict in Vietnam, in Korea, and we were able to share the sort of grief of war and to sing and to really open ourselves. Yeah, so it was amazing time to be together.
Yeah.
And there was the silence. There were no planes flying over.
How
That's
strange.
right.
You know, there's a recording from that conference. Umberto Acabal was there,
Yeah, that's right.
and there's a recording, and he's doing poetry in Mayan and Quiche, and suddenly in the midst of it, you hear jet engines because it's warplanes from the Duluth Air Base
Really?
flying over at that moment, and everyone just sort of freezes because they all know what kind of plane that is. They know it's not a commercial plane. They know it's a warplane, and
Yeah.
that outside, conflict and everything that meant, like was just the sound of it was coming into the conference.
Yeah. Thank you. I had no memory of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
But
I
it came
think-
and it went.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm remembering, I think I was the only guy that knew anything in Arabic.
Mm.
And Robert nudged me, and I did Bismillah,
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah.
Yeah.
We begin in the name of Allah. And it was very strange. I'm hardly even a Christian myself. I'm more like a happy pagan anymore. But those words were important to put in the room.
Yeah.
You know, you never know.
Yeah. So important. I remember Robert Bly would say, before we attack somebody, we should always read their 2 best poems and listen to their best piece of music and then decide if we want to attack them.
Yep.
Rehumanize. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like poems, right, which I've heard from the men's conference that part of the reason we learn to memorize poems is so that when our lives take whatever form they are in those moments, those poems that we've memorized, they come up and they serve us, and we can grapple with our life better with those poems. And a lot of the songs are poems, and they function the same way.
Yeah.
So many of those songs, Doug, that you taught us, they resurface, right? They come again, like this last one, right? The Arabic one, right? And the other ones, Ubi Caritas, they come because we've sung them. And so when I'm tanking for gas or when I'm grieving over a loss, those songs inevitably come up because I've sung them enough times that they're now part of my, quote, soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of strange how they come up. And in a way, the songs we've heard that a lot of the old stories were sung. We know that the Quran is chanted, right? And in a way, we remember poems, we remember stories even better, arguably, with song, right? With the melody. And we know that epic tales were sung. And while I may not have those epic tales, I have those songs. And those songs accompany me for the rest of my life.
Very good.
And they're a companion, and they help me get through my life.
And I think, Nicholas, that the poems come up when ordinary language doesn't serve us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we cannot find the words to carry this great emotion that we wanted. And the poets come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Songs come up.
Yeah.
Same reason.
It's the way that we've talked about stories. The songs themselves are like living beings
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit world, and they have and intelligence and know when to come through us. We are their vehicles to enter into this world and do the healing that needs to be done at that time, whether it's for one person or 40 people or 1,000 people.
Yeah.
We've seen where people will just burst into a song. Big crowds will burst into a song at some sorrowful time or some joyful time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think spirituality, I grew up in the church, and I'm always thinking about this. And when I started singing with Doug and doing that practice, I said to myself, "Oh Lord, this is what I had hoped church would do for me, is to open my heart and to bring beauty with other people in community." And it really does hit those notes. And I feel as though Rudolf Steiner, he said, eventually he liked to talk about the future. He said, all the religions are going to go away, and it's just going to be the artists then that are holding the spirituality. And I feel as though the singing circle that Doug taught me, it decentralizes. You don't have some person high up on their podium letting you know the language of God. You rather are all bringing your voice into one beautiful voice. And that is where I think we are right now, spiritually, is to bring ourselves together. And that's the medicine of this time. Is to sing together. That's as far as I've gotten anyway. Yeah.
Here's another Rudolf Steiner quote. The rose adorns itself for the glory of the garden. Yeah.
That's good. There's a conference at the end of the conference at the Great Mother, where I've also worked with Doug. There's a big celebration and dinner, and you're talking about the rose adorning itself. When Doug was there, people would wait for Doug to see how he had dressed, because when Doug came over the hill, like, it was always everyone's jaw would drop. Man, he would come and then he'd slowly come and he'd stop and look at the lake, and then he'd keep going a few more steps. And it was so beautiful that you modeled all this fun and beauty with the way that you.
Somebody reminded me the other day that it was a rainy Saturday night, and I was in a black tuxedo, and I was dragging a brilliant red raincoat behind me as the rain poured down. I had to do it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go to Nicholas. He hops up on a table, and he started this slow version of "Those Were the Days," and by the time we were at the end, that is the most ecstatic, wild moment I've maybe had singing in my life. And like, Nicholas threw the freaking door open, and the place was bonkers.
Everybody was on their feet singing. Those were the days, my friend.
Oh my Lord God, it was so good.
And we were moving, right? We were really dancing with that music as well.
It was just
Nicholas, how about a few bars of it right now?
Those were the days, my friend. We thought they never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we'd choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days. Oh, yes, they were the days. You guys know this part. Lie, 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 la 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 la. La, la, la.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Oh,
wow.
And of course, that led to some of our trips down to New Orleans to sing with Bob. And we spend a few days with Bob in his house, and then go off to sing. and the joy that we had singing carried into that church. And I remember coming out of the when we'd finish our half hour or whatever it was, people would just come around and crowd us, and they were flabbergasted. They'd never saw men open up so freely, because we were in a perfection-free zone, but we still had our professional Jack Gunderson to keep us true.
And David
Ballman.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, he was off the charts one song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and Tim, did we not sing one time in your backyard? I remember a bunch of us under a tree.
That was my mother-in-law's tree. It was my mother-in-law's backyard, and we had about 19 guys showed up to sing. And then we had a whole group of 50 or 60 people that came to watch us.
And Tim was Jonah in that circle?
Yeah, he was in that circle. That's right. That was so fun.
You came from a baseball game where Jonah had been pitching.
That's right. That's right. That's so great. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Walter, you've been listening intently. Tell me a story.
Well, a story we were talking about singing in the power of music, and I remember a story about Tim Frantzich being at a conference, and Tim, you had created the song "All the Prison Doors Swing Open."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And we had some men who had been incarcerated at that conference.
Right.
And when you stood up and sang that song, and I mean, it went in deep. I mean, that was not lost on anybody what that song was about and how powerful that song was. And I will always remember that moment of standing next to those formerly incarcerated men singing about the chains coming off and the prison doors coming open, and intensely beautiful.
Tim, can you sing a little bit of that song for this recording?
The chorus, it's like, let's see, I'll start with the bridge, right? It's kind of even the shy one in the corner, even the mean one in the dark, even the one twisted with hatred, even the one with angry marks, even the ones who broke the rules, even the crazy ones with hair, even the wealthy, even the thieves, even the liars, even the ones that don't seem to care. Everybody's chains came off. All the prison doors swung open. Oh, everybody. It's so simple. It's like two chords in the truth, right? And then we're like, feels so good to be free again. Feels so good to be free again. Harmony. Feels so good to be free again. Feels so good to be free again. Everybody's chains came off. Yeah. All the prison doors swung open. Yeah.
I gotta say, Two Chords in the Truth might be the best band name I've ever heard.
Yeah, no kidding.
Excuse me, I'm going to write that down.
I'm doing the same, Doug.
Oh yeah, there's so many musical memories. At the conference, I resigned to the fact at some point that it was like water rushing over me, and I couldn't hang on to all of it. But it just, as Tony Hoagland would say, would polish us as it goes past, because there's just so much that we encounter in between each other, and the distance between us is holy ground. There's one of Doug's, beautiful.
And the man that wrote that poem is still in my life, Rafael Jesus Gonzalez. He
Oh,
lives in
wonderful.
Oakland, and he's now the poet laureate of Berkeley,
Wow.
and wonderful man,
Mhm.
wonderful man. Let's see, something just went by. Uh, oh, Tim, at the Great Mother Conference, you got a bunch of the elder men and women up on the stage, and then you led a song that the whole community sang
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. I think it's oh, the summertime has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? That's kind of one of our theme songs out there. It's such a
Yeah.
beautiful
There
community song.
wasn't a dry eye in the house,
Mm.
both the people on the stage and the people who were singing it.
Yeah.
It was just magic.
Mm.
And it was almost like a total spontaneous move.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of time to end the story. I think that may have been the ending. A lot will incorporate things like songs in the storytelling. That may
Yeah.
have even ended
Yeah.
the story, possibly.
I'd like to ask you guys, we got just not too long left. Would you have a few hints for other guys who might want to start a singing circle, or some tips or something else? I'm sure there are plenty of fellas that are going to catch this podcast and listen and want to do something in their area, in their home, in their group.
Mhm.
Any tips?
Yeah,
Well,
I'd go. I'd invite a few friends to my home and start with almost like campfire songs. Oh, my darling Clementine, and stuff like that, just to get them singing together,
yeah, yeah.
and then have them come again. And next time, add a song that maybe 2 or 3 part harmony. Ever so simple though. Start simple. Keep
Yeah.
it simple, stupid. Yeah, and then ornament as time goes on.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. What do you think, guys?
I think that's right, and I think also don't neglect the little touches. You know, the candles, some
Yeah.
flowers, a bowl of water, things like that.
Yep.
It just focuses the energy, and it's part of that de-anesthetizing of the world and the re-ensouling of the world, right? Which is the business we're in, right?
I remember,
Yeah.
Doug, when you told me the story, Doug, of that first time in Mendocino, you said that you made the doorway a little low and you made the threshold a little high so that people had to kind of step through into
Yeah.
that space. And another detail that Doug understands so deeply. If I were gonna, when I've given people advice to start, I say, like, just try 3 or 4 songs, learn 3 or 4 that are simple that you can bring, and get a few trusted friends, people that are interested in this, and remember to call it perfection free, and just see if you can all, you really don't need a quiver of 20 songs to start, you know.
No.
And YouTube now, I mean, there's a lot going on in this. More and more people are creating it, and Minneapolis has about, I don't know, 5 robust song circles at least, if not more. But I think that I hope to continue to put Doug's work out there. I have some recordings of Doug that are in a small, maybe four songs so far, from a few years ago, Doug. on Temple of Melodious Sound on YouTube. It's all one word. And I hope to add to that because we can share that way too to learn. I mean, I wanted a resource right away that first year in 2001. I'm like, where can I get these songs? Where are they? And now we can have more of them.
That's right. You came to my living room
Yeah.
and you set up a camera
Yes.
and we recorded some.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hooray for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicholas, do you have any advice to
Yes, I do.
song circles?
And my advice would be when you're driving in your car, turn off the radio, especially when you're all alone, and start to hum to yourself. Hum to yourself the whole way you drive, or start singing Alleluia, the simplest, just sing that in any way you want to, or just ah, and sing it all the way to wherever you're going to get to know and love your own voice. That's my recommendation.
Beautiful.
Such a beautiful, beautiful sounds of you guys' voice. I mean, I'm carried away. I'm sitting in my own house and I'm carried away.
And Nicholas, your advice brought up our friend Jay Leeming.
Yeah.
Jay Leeming has this poem, I pick up a hitchhiker. After a few miles, he tells me the car has no engine.
Yeah.
We pull over and stop. He's right. We never say another word about it all the way to Minnesota.
Oh, I'd just like to thank you guys for talking about this. It's so important to me, but I want to share this with as many people as it can hear this, because we are in a time of transition, I think. And we want to make sure this transition has a lot of song, a lot of heart. The rose adorns itself for the glory of the garden.
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep glorifying the garden. We've been at it 40 years. Let's go for another 40.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, Walter, can I get a brass ginkgo?
Yes. Absolutely. That one's yours. I'll save it for you right here next time I see you.
There you go. Well, fellas, it has been an absolute joy to see your faces, to hear the stories, to bring all the many memories. And I know that tonight is going to be a very interesting night.
Okay. Good night,
I'll see you all
gentlemen.
in my dreams.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Good night, gentlemen, and thank you.
Thank you. Much love
Good
to all
night.
of you. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Wonderful to be with
Yep.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.